Hello, everybody. You're listening to Shield Hero Weekly or every week or whatever clickbait title I give this once I upload it to the main channel later and it inevitably gets more views. This is episode 3, and right away, there's been concern among some people about whether we will have enough to say about this show in every episode, because it is going to be a 25-episode show, and with Made in Abyss, when the story kind of slowed down a little in the middle, we really were hard pressed to find things to say about it, and that's why we ended up kind of shutting the series down midway. But this is a kind of turning into a case where, because both of us have actually read the manga this time, there's enough to go on just comparing the anime versus the manga almost to keep it interesting, at least for me.
You know, that's definitely true. Hi, everyone. I'm the best guy ever. Maybe you've heard of me. But I have wondered if that's boring for people who just care about the anime. I have meaningful comparisons to say why I think one choice was better or worse that I've got a ton for this episode I'm going to love to get into. But you think anybody thinks that's boring? Like, just the anime people who are like, I just want a review?
I think they'd be interested to hear the difference so that they don't have to read the manga if they're not interested, because I know a lot of them won't,
Yeah, of course. Do you know about Firo? I'm just curious if you got to that point. You know Firo?
No, I haven't even met.
All right.
I mean, cool. I found out through the OP that he would have another
What's with the fucking...
Okay,
the OP, I just noticed this time, there's kind of some fucking spoilers about... I hate when shows do that. Either the ED or the OP has... And I know that, if you haven't watched the show, you won't understand what the spoiler is necessarily.
But it's obvious.
It's pretty damn obvious.
What the fuck else could that be other than another party member? I immediately thought that when I saw it. I was like...
They need a consultant. When a show is making a fucking OP, they can't just be thinking about, what's going to be, the coolest image to put in the OP? Okay, that's fine. Every show needs a, spoiler consultant. They need a consultant on staff to tell them what not to ruin. Yeah.
I really think that their mentality going into it is that if they think that the light novel or manga is already, really popular, that most of the audience will have already read it. And so they want to, tease you with, here's what that character you like is going to look like once they get introduced. And so, for those people, they're like, oh, I can't wait to see that moment. But it is, awkward to know that new viewers are definitely getting spoiled, or people who only read, a little bit of the manga like me,
I mean, you want to plan for success, right? So the best scenario, and this show is pretty popular. I haven't checked, its rankings. Last time I checked, it was number 1, I think, but that was due to, the controversy. Hopefully it's still ranked well. But, you want to prepare your audience.
Mean, it's fucking...
It's good. Things stepped up.
I predicted in 2014 that this show was going to have an anime and it was going to be a huge success worldwide. I fucking said that, and I can't believe it took this long.
Yeah, me neither.
They're clearly... They looked at it and they said, this has a ton of source material. We know this will be popular. We're giving it 25 episodes, and the opening episode is 45 minutes long. You don't do that if it's not a sure thing.
Definitely true. But that's the thing. When you're making a show, you want to prepare for success. So, something with, Game of Thrones or whatever, I know it didn't involve, a manga equivalent, but it had the books. Those were very popular. But, nowhere in the opening of Game of Thrones do they spoil any of the major twists. And, the whole world was shocked at the end of season 1 with the death of whatever important character. I guess I won't get into it, but if it was me in a perfect world, you would just prepare everything for this. If the show is super successful, it will introduce more people to this story than the manga ever would in 1,000 lifetimes, because it has the potential to be an Attack on Titan or whatever and just spiral out and be super popular. It's not going to reach that level, I don't think. I mean, what can reach Attack on the Titan's level of popularity?
No, that's not happening without a more hype adaptation.
It's got to be hype as fuck. That's the number one thing. You need some crazy Sakuga, which, by the way, there was in this
story
episode.
That you can make that hype, because it is ultimately a very otaku downer, incel fucking story.
True.
It's always gonna attract. Imagine if it was a bigger deal of a show. Imagine
I would love that.
The actual broad SJW crowd was talking about the incel anime that was that became all the right wingers avatars or something. I don't want to live in this world. I don't want to go
maybe
this far.
That could bridge the gap, though. Man, like I always think about, like, you hear about like a feminist. I've heard a couple stories about this, who just like has a son. Now all of a sudden she's very concerned about, like, oh shit, maybe like some of the stuff I'm thinking. And of course the opposite as well. You got like a MGTOW asshole guy, whatever, has a daughter, and now all of a sudden he's like, shit, maybe women's rights like should be real, or or whatever. I don't know. I got hope. I got hope for this world. But anyway, let's see if there's hope in this world with our heroes and friends.
Yeah.
So, first thing of note with the new episode, Raphtalia is all grown up. Now, she was a lolly last couple episodes, and everybody thought this would last a while. But fucking spoilered in the very opening, which frustrates me to no end, was the fact that she was gonna grow up anyway. And here she is. It happens in episode 3. So they didn't make us fucking wait for that shit at all. Thoughts, Digi? Does this... I mean, well, you fucking read it, so I guess it's not a surprise. But,
No.
Yeah.
I was very confused watching this episode because I remembered the manga wrongly. And we just had like a 10-minute conversation about my misremembering of...
That's possible.
Of the
I can
manga.
neither confirm nor deny.
Where I believed that she was drawn as a little girl for longer before they revealed that he didn't realize she was a little girl.
So what you're thinking was that like she was drawn as a little girl, but that was just his perception. But in truth, everyone else was witnessing her as an adult or something.
Yeah, like I had remembered it
brah.
that way for some reason, but
Okay.
like that is not the way it's actually portrayed. It's just like in the anime, and
Yep.
I don't know why I thought that. I literally wrote like a review of it where I said this like a long time ago, and I happened to find that review and read it and was like, oh yeah, this is how I remember things,
Yeah.
Very fucking strange.
It's just like that like old ass Ghost in the Shell review that you wrote way back in the day that was totally bullshit, and you said it sucked and didn't make any sense, I guess. Although that was just based on not liking it as opposed to deliberate confusion, I suppose.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, anyway, in the anime and the manga, presumably the light novel, she is an adult, and isn't she pretty? I mean, I got, like, it's cool, it's fine. Now, yeah, I was looking to try to understand exactly what it was. I thought there was, like, something funny going on where, like, it was the fact that she had grinded a lot and leveled up really fast that evolved her. There's a little bit more of that in the manga, but here in the fucking anime, all that the dude says is like, don't you know, the fucking shopkeeper, don't you know about Beastmen? And that conversation gets like cut off, and we just start talking about something else.
It's implying that the Beastmen just age really fast.
Yeah,
But,
I guess that's really all there is to it.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean,
that's
he did
what
like,
he's implying, unless they're going to reveal later that it is leveling up.
He healed her sickness. He fed her food. I mean, maybe are they gonna do a twist where like love helps them grow? Because I could feel some emotions like that swirling around. I don't think that's actually true, but they didn't even comment on what it was. And I went back and looked at the manga. There really isn't any discussion on exactly what it is that made her like level up fast. I mean, these I'm using the wrong terms. They have to be specific here. Made her age fast. Maybe it's related to leveling up. Maybe not. I guess they just age fast. I don't know.
I'm realizing why I made that mistake about the manga, and it's because I was misremembering the point that I was trying to make in that review, which was that the fact that they draw her grown up in the manga and anime, like I've had the feeling that in the light novel they would not have explicitly described her as having grown up, and therefore if you had no visual of her, then it would have been, you wouldn't have in your mind necessarily imagined that she had grown up just based on the conversations that the characters were having. Because the main character is telling you that she hasn't grown up and everyone else is acting weird, and he is the narrator. So like if he doesn't perceive her as grown up, you probably won't either. Whereas both of the adaptations choose to portray it from the perspective of the everyone else, who sees her grown up, and he seems like the odd man out. And I think that was my criticism of the manga, that I misremembered as what they actually did in the manga. Which is why I was confused when I watched the anime, not realizing that I had been criticizing the manga for doing it this way in the first place.
Okay, fair enough. Fair enough.
Yeah.
Well, in any case, the fact that she's an adult is fine. All it really does is open up romantic possibilities, I suppose. Other than that, I mean, I guess she's stronger and faster. whatever. It's cool. I like it.
Yeah.
It was
It's
foreshadowed.
pretty transparent what they were trying to do. They were like, hey, we're gonna age her up so she could be the waifu. We know you don't want to have to deal with this kid the whole time. Like, we're not trying to sell this only to lolicons.
Indeed. Indeed.
You know,
They're going for the wider audience.
I love Raftalia because she is like this. This is gonna sound weird because like what I hated about Sword Art Online is that they portray Kirito and Asuna as like equals.
Sure.
Like they make sure you know that she's very strong-willed, that she could take care of herself, that she's like the second best, fighter in the game. But like the way that she's portrayed as a character, she should be better than Kirito because she works harder. He's just better for no reason,
He's just a genius or something, right?
Yeah, he's just basically a new type. So like he always in the end is gonna save her. Like no matter how much they pay lip service to the idea that like they fight side by side, always he is gonna have to fight the final boss while she's unconscious or getting licked by a fucking weirdo or some shit. Like
fair enough.
Like so you never really have the feeling that Asuna is actually as strong as Kirito. What's great about Raftalia and the Shield Hero is that he can't fucking fight without her. And she is portrayed as really badass in like equal measure to him because even though he's doing all this like really complex shit, he can only do defense. And like they don't try to get out of it. Like the author doesn't try to make him use shields offensively. Like he's just defending people while Raftalia does all the damage,
Yeah.
So like even if the stuff he's doing might be more impressive on some level and like he has higher growth potential because of the shield and all the things it can do, like at the end of the day, he still can't stab anybody. He needs her to be badass. And so they actually seem like they're fighting on equal terms and like they both have something to contribute to the fight. And like
Absolutely.
If she got knocked out, he is not just going to win anyways,
I suppose it's almost fair to say that she's become almost an amazingly huge badass. In the span of like, one time lapse. Now she's doing like fucking samurai, teleports behind you shit and all kinds of dope samurai stuff. It's really cool. And I mean, I'm happy to do a little time skip here of like, I don't know, a couple days or a week or a month or whatever and have her doing this kind of stuff. But yeah, I mean, I really like that too. It's a cool dynamic. And I mean, it's like the central pillar of the whole concept of the show. He has to rely on her, he has to trust her, both in an emotional way, bro, and in a fucking battle way. That's cool. That's great. It's just it's a Gesamtkunstwerk. It works in every dimension and it enhances itself by it just fucking works and it's great.
Yeah, he threw me off at the Gesamtkunstwerk. Fucking well, shit. I don't have another immediately thought up point. Do you have another bullet point?
Nah. I got plenty to talk about this episode. So this episode, we finally get to the fucking raid. Our boy's been grinding. He's actually been leveling up with Raftalia. Now that they've, they've beaten their first little dungeon or whatever, that we just do a little time skip ahead, and it's the raid this episode. And first of all, that's like the main thing that happens. They go to the church with the dragon hourglass to find out when the raid is. They find out it's soon, and they prepare for it, and they fucking go to it. Just on the raid in general, which was most of the episode. I just wanted to say that at the beginning of the raid, when like they're getting there, there's a little conversation about like how they're preparing for this battle between with Naofumi and Raftalia. Between the two, like going over their feelings for each other and whatnot. I felt a little bit of that Kevin Penkin like Made in Abyss magic. I felt some of the emotions that it honestly felt extremely familiar. Obviously, same musician and same studio and whatnot, to the feelings from there. And the big like the glowing like sunset scenery and all that, extremely Made in Abyss. But anyway, I just thought this episode did a great job of really being super cinematic and was honestly probably, I mean, I think it was easily the best episode to date. Through sheer action and like the emotions that were.
I would say that like the action is inconsistent in quality, but there are peaks to it.
There's moments huge
where
peaks.
Yeah, like some of Raftalia's animation is really dope. It's satisfying.
Yep.
Like
yep.
they put
We get to see her
emphasis
be a
on
badass.
satisfaction over fluidity, and I personally think that's always the way to go. With
We got to see
animation.
Naofumi and Raftalia in like their first like real fight, and I was quite satisfied with it. We see Naofumi busting out all these different like shield techniques that he's developed. Really cool. I suppose, to be fair, I kind of wanted like, it's more satisfying when you've got like a hero who like develops a new power. We see him like use it and overcome some obstacles with it, so we feel like attached to it. And then he like gets his next one. We go through the same thing. That's like the most satisfying way.
Yeah, I mean,
for
the
me,
rope
that isn't.
shield kind of had that at the very least.
It did. The rope shield did, and but like he didn't do anything previously with like the windshield, except block. He did block that the fucking dog once, and the chain shield or whatever. Like creates like a box around them with one. But that was all fine. But the point was, I just really enjoyed seeing them using these in combination, doing cool stuff. Raftalia being a badass suddenly. And I was like, yeah, I see where this is going. If they keep this stuff up and do more cool stuff, I could really see this being an entertaining like action series as well. Yeah. And the one animation highlight for me, there was actually like there's one moment where fucking Naofumi blocks like a big ogre who's coming at him, and I know again I'm just going all over the place, but whatever, fuck it. He blocks the thing. Raftalia jumps on the arm of the thing, runs up it, and slashes its head. That was dope. But the best one by far was a little bit before that. I think there's just a moment where like for the first time, Naofumi and Raftalia like they're like in sync. They start fighting. She was away. She like just got back from helping villagers or whatever, and they fight in sync for the first time. And it was like one uncut shot. They like the cinematography was notably way better than like everything else that's been in the series so far. Yeah. And there's like a cool moment where like we see like an imp or whatever, a skeleton like thrust a spear. Raftalia's hair like swirls around it in the foreground. She like swirls around the spear and then like cuts that guy down, then moves on to more. That I mean, is the term Sakuga? Is that the term? Because it was good.
Hopefully someone in the comments will know like why this moment was better, like what staff member guest fucking directed on this shit or something, if anything like that.
They put more effort into that than I don't know, most of the rest of it. It was like whatever. Like
there's some bad smoke CGI and stuff.
I mean, there were like B CGIs. I saw like skeletons CGI. I think there were absolutely some of that bullshit going on in there too.
There's like, I think that this show is effective enough that like. It's funny. I still would put it at, like a 7 out of 10 level, but like I consider that a compliment, especially in the current situation with anime, as if you see it the way I do. And like the fact that there are like emotional stakes in the fighting, and that like there are cool moments, and that ultimately the characters are interesting, and you understand everything that's going on. There's like different layers to what's happening. Yep. That all keeps it interesting. So, like, you can overlook how there's also sometimes just weird shit. Like this moment where the villagers, like, come back to help. And he's like, yeah, come along, help me out. And then, like, one villager attacks one enemy and fails. And he's like, actually, get out.
And you know why? Okay, this is the biggest thing about this episode, and I'm happy to discuss it. Oh, I suppose we should talk about previously he like met up with the other heroes. Let's talk about the raid first, though. So that moment when the villagers come back, okay, notably, and I remember this and I double checked. So in the manga, that does not happen. Naofumi like basically fights this alone until those knights show up. Whatever, they help out a little bit, not as much as they do in this even. But it's him protecting this village, but the villagers do not come back. Excuse me. And so what they're doing is by bringing the villagers back, they're kind of jumping the gun a little bit on a narrative that takes longer to build in the manga. In the manga. Again, Naofumi recognizes that this village is about to be attacked by the force of the wave, and the other three heroes have gone off to like go find the boss and whatnot. But he's focused on shit. These people need help. They need protection. I'm gonna go make that my priority. So he goes and he does that. And in the manga, there's a couple instances where the villagers, and remember, his reputation is terrible. That's the whole thing. His reputation is ruined as a hero because of the rape accusations, just being the shield hero and whatnot. he saves several individual people and goes way out of his way and protects the village. And we see characters like villagers say, "Wow, the Shield Knight saved me! Oh my God, that's so crazy." So it's planting the seeds that, wow, this guy is the champion of the people. He really cares about the persecuted and the downtrodden. He's like a Tyrion Lannister. Like, because he's been so shit-talked and has terrible social standing and has been, run over by everybody socially and whatever wise, reputation-wise, like, he can identify with the people at the bottom rungs, despite being, like a lord or a hero. I guess, actually, Tyrion Lannister's a pretty apt comparison.
It's a pretty good, I was thinking that, like, the whole taking a slave to free them / make them your guy would totally be something he would do.
Absolutely. But of course he'd also recognize that. It also kind of reminds me, similarly, I guess, I was watching some clips of this from Inglourious Bastards when German what's-his-face buys Django as a slave.
What's-his-face?
I can't remember his name. Dr.
King
whatever.
Something.
Dr.
King
Dickenheim or something.
Dr.
I don't
Schultz.
fucking remember.
Schultz?
Schultz or whatever it is. He buys fucking Django, but he makes a deal. He's a good guy, and he's like, listen, I'm literally owning you as a slave. I know, kind of fucked up, but let's make a deal. You help me, I'll set you free. What do you think? And then they do it, and it's pretty cool. It's still fair to talk shit on the guy for owning a slave, but overall, whatever. He's the good man overall. So to get back to the point here, it's by bringing in the villagers, they make that. I thought it was a decent scene, but admittedly, they bring in this plot element of the villagers helping only for them to be totally ineffectual, and now Fumi to do everything anyway, basically, and Raphtalia helps and whatnot. And the reason they're doing that is because that's something that comes in later in the manga of the villagers rising up and wanting to actively help the shield hero, when really it makes more sense for them to take a little bit longer to trust him and be willing to put their lives on the line. I thought it was handled pretty well here. They see him defending them, protecting their lives and whatnot, and they think, wow, this guy's actually here helping us. Let's help him. Makes sense. It does make sense. But this ties into my larger point for the whole episode, and as well for the whole show, I mean. And it's that, so last episode I was complaining that they don't make Naofumi look as he doesn't have the eye bags. Yeah. He looks a little bit less depressed, a little less, nihilistic and whatnot, a little less of a jerk. And this episode, I noticed many times, I went back and compared them between the manga and this. And I know the light novels, he's even more edgy than the manga. They are really going out of their way to make Naofumi less of a brat, less of a jerk, and less resentful, at least in general, and just more of a kind of a generic-y nice guy. Generic's the wrong word.
They're jumping the gun and getting to the point too fast.
Yeah, when really, because, and I don't want to spoil anyone, this isn't a spoiler, but the fact that Naofumi has deep, burning resentment that isn't only there when the other knights are there, and which we'll talk about, and he's mad at them. He he hates being around them. He wants to get away from them really fast, and he doesn't like Raphtalia interacting with them. That's all good when they're there, but the fact that his personality has been poisoned is deeply important. Not even just for the personality and the writing of the character, but for actual plot elements that arise later on in the series. And to not go really reinforce his bitterness, his resentment, page by page by page, they're kind of undercutting a reveal and some plot twist that will come up later. And look, it's not bad. We can feel him being still resentful and kind of grumpy in general.
It's just kind of watered down because
it's definitely watered down.
And I mean, in the case of the manga, the watering down of the light novel is what made it readable to me. Because of the light novel, it's so over the top that it's like reading a Shadow the Hedgehog fucking diary or something,
Sure.
It's out of the edge. And when you read the manga, you're like, all right, it's a lot cuter that they just put dark circles under his eyes and just stuck with the dialogue,
But the dialogue is, I mean, maybe it's literally from the light novel. Compared to the anime, it's toned way down. Here, I wrote down a bunch of examples, but here's a great one. In that emotional scene that I was complimenting before the raid starts, where I was feeling all the Maiden Abyss vibes and whatnot, they bring the great music, and it's fucking Raphtalia saying, I will be your sword, I will stick with you, Lord Naofumi or whatever. His response to that in the manga he says to her with like look with like a depressed, like not that impressed look in his eyes, when it's really characterized as a big emotional high point. It still is in the manga, but what he says is that like, okay, listen, I'm gonna try to protect you, but I can't guarantee your safety. Whereas in the anime, what he says is just like, he says like, is that so? Kind of mysteriously, and then it cuts away. So they're really going out of their way to not only depict him physically, but to rewrite his dialogue to make him softer, like more likable as a character. And that's not actually good for where this story goes. So that, I think, is something, but there's a trade-off there, because what they're trading the edginess for, they're trading it for like those emotional peaks. They're trading it for like the connection with Raphtalia and to like, you know,
like
waifu her up a little more.
It's like they just want, because again, like we've said before, this character is not necessarily likable in the early part of the story. Yeah. And like the point of it is that he's going to become better and learn to trust people, and you know, people are going to trust him because he does good things. And like they just made that apparent much quicker. Like it's just obvious where this is going, that like the villagers are on his side already. So we already have a sense that like we're already feeling like, okay, well now he's got like a really good dedicated partner and the people are on his side. So like we're obviously going in this direction. And the manga just tried to keep things under wraps a little bit more so that you would have a deeper sense of it. But at the same time, again, to get that deeper sense of it would be to make the character more unlikable. And I think the anime just went, I guess he's unlikable enough already. Kids are already going to project onto him. Nobody needs this to be as real as it gets in the light novel, because we don't want it to be necessarily as controversial or as inaccessible, you know?
Yeah. It's making me wonder if they're going to water down, like, kind of the climactic moments where that's relevant to his character. And I don't want to spoil anything, but there's moments where his darkness comes out in very unhealthy ways to the people directly around him, and that's important. That's some of the like... If we're to take this story as a metaphor for being like emotionally wounded, let's just say it's a metaphor for like a man who's been spurned by women and trying to rebuild his relationships with women. Because surely we can all agree, if men can be hurt by women or whatever, or the vice versa as well. But like ultimately, you want that person to heal, right? That's the story that I'm seeing. We want it to seem like he truly was hurt, and we want to see a real progression that we could kind of get something out of as to how we could also heal from this experience. And to just, they're kind of acting like it wasn't that big a deal. And seeing that character, when he's hurt so bad, like lash out at the people around him due to the darkness in him. Like, I don't know, let's say you're a guy, you had a bad relationship with a girl, so your next girlfriend, she really likes you, but, you're mean to her sometimes because, these fucking bitches, they're just going to betray you, so I'm going to be, what's the point of even treating her right now? I mean, that's an interesting dynamic. Obviously, it's bad. You want a character to overcome that. But you got to go through the bad to make the point, and you just don't want to undercut it. And to that point... Oh, yeah, go ahead.
To give you the reversal, though, of a moment where they do capture him being a, like, incel hero a little better, but in such a way that it made me think, wow, what a pussy.
Yeah.
And it's when he meets the other guys, and they're all, like, shitting on him, and he doesn't say anything. He just, like, clenches his jaws and his fists. He's like, come on, Raphtalia, let's get out of here. And I'm just like, I feel like that feeling that other people have described when they watch Eva, and they're like, get in the robot, Shinji. Like, I've always, like, that mentality has always been disgusting to me, because I was 14 when I watched Eva, and I felt just like Shinji, and I was like, of course there's validity in writing a character this way. This character is deeply socially awkward, and he's like 17, and he's been hurt real bad, and he is not emotionally ready to make like snarky comebacks yet. But, like, for me...
He is in the manga, though. In the manga, he's very yelly at these guys in this very same scene. And that's... I mean, they've really toned him down, like, across the board. They've just cut a lot of his dialogue, and
that's
it's
crazy.
It's a choice.
It's interesting that they would make that change then, because, like, if you have him yelling back in the manga, then that means he's progressed more in his self-confidence. But still not progressed in like other elements of his toxicity, you know? Whereas in the anime, he has not progressed in his confidence as much, and that is more the burden that he's got on his shoulders as opposed to the burden of nobody liking him at all, you know?
Yeah.
And so like it's weird because that changes the character in such a way where I could see how I was more on his side in the manga, where he's got like a deadpan expression and dark circles under his eyes and he's screaming back at people, versus, you know, a guy who just clenches his teeth and fucking sods away like a fucking sad boy when his girl is like trying to stand up for him and he can't even stand up for himself. And I'm just like, what a fucking pussy. Like
he comes across way more of like a passive. He seems way older in the anime, and he kind of looks physically older too, with like the less boyish face, like the sharper features. He comes across, I mean, I know he's canonically 20, but he comes across like a, I don't know, like a mid late 20s guy who's just kind of like above the immature people around him, and he's just burying these things because he can't, I don't know, like he won't do any good to like bring them up, I guess. And I kind of connected more with the brattiness of the character before, and he was like spunkier. He was more like yelly, and
like,
he gets in the fucking spear guy's face when he grabs Raphtalia in the manga.
I can easily imagine somebody his age in this situation having that reaction, because I still know, like, you know, 20-year-olds who are awkward, and I think of myself at that age, and I'm like, before I had more confidence, I could see, like, you know, like, people who I might talk shit about online, but if I saw them in person, I would keep my mouth shut because I wouldn't want to start anything, you know? Like, because I'm not even so much because I'm mature as much as because I'm afraid, you know? Like, to start some shit. So, like, I can understand why he's like that, but I know myself now would never let anyone talk about me that way without saying anything in return.
I mean, this guy straight up thinks, right now at least, that the Shield Knight conspired with What's-Her-Face in a conspiracy to, like, get him fucking, you know, cast out of society. And that's...
he's already taken that attitude towards, like, the shopkeepers and shit. Like, he's putting monsters on people's faces. So, like... He's reached some level of this, but like, because these are the specific people who harmed him, he is extra fucking worn down by them, I guess. And like, that is still an interesting message. It's just one that like I just don't connect with this character as immediately as I do the one who would clap back, you know?
Yeah. And I don't know. He's still intimidated in the manga, and he still walks away. But yeah, there's something to be said about the more confrontational attitude I more appreciated. And by the way, here's another example to my point here. As soon as this confrontation is done about, you know, yelling at the fucking Spear Knight and whatnot, and peacing out, he immediately in the manga goes to an open field. And remember how you could only beat the balloons by punching them? He tells Raphtalia, leave me alone, don't fight with me. I need to punch some fucking balloons. I need to kill something with my bare hands to vent this rage. And like what he does in the fucking anime is he goes and he grinds medicine contemplatively. And like, okay, that's fine. He's dealing with his anger in a different way, but that's a very different way of like
my skin.
I like the punching something to death thing more. It's more in your face.
It's more
fun.
It's just one of those days when you don't want to wake up. Everything is fucked. Everybody sucks. And that's more my speed when I'm emotional.
That's the thing. They're making the character more mature in the anime, I feel, and I like it less. I like it less that he's more mature, I guess is my point.
It's interesting that the word you choose is mature, because, like, I feel like the older I get, the less of that kind of shit I would just put up and shut up with, you know?
I guess I'm thinking of it, the fact that he pussied out is, I suppose, in a way, less mature. But I don't know. I felt like his emotions at that point were the same. Like he confronts the guy, he leaves regardless of what words are exchanged. But it's what he does after to vent. It's where like nothing is achieved by going to punch some goblet or some balloons or whatever. Whereas grinding medicine, more productive use of his time, I guess.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I don't know. It's just it's a small thing. As I said, I'm still enjoying the show a lot.
More of a sad boy and less of an anger boy, I guess.
That anger is important to the character. It's it's important that we see him lashing out physically and doing that stuff for things that happen later. So
I don't know. Maybe we're overstating it because we have comparisons. Like, I don't know what the audience feels about. Like, I don't know if anime only fans feel like they are still getting the impression that he's downtrodden or that they relate to him just fine or anything like.
Yeah.
I don't know if this is a problem to anybody who hasn't read the manga, if they feel like the pacing is awkward or anything like that.
And I don't want to make this a shittier experience for the anime people by just jumping on every time after they've enjoyed an episode that I also enjoyed, but just spending the time shitting on like ways that I felt it was worse than the manga.
Well, we've talked about a lot of things that we thought were good about it. We like the action choreography.
Yep.
You know,
unique to the anime.
I like Raphthalia's voice, and just like the way she's presented in the show has a lot of energy to it, and you know, she's fun to watch. And so like when you've got her like getting mad at him like for not recognizing that she has grown up, it's like you really feel like it's really frustrating for her. She's like, what the fuck is wrong with you? Why aren't you like, why won't you recognize me as an adult? I'm confused, you know?
I wonder if she's like still canonically like 10. He says in the manga that she's 10 or something, but I don't know if that's like I think he's guessing. So that might not be fucking official or whatever. I mean, it doesn't matter, I guess. The point is she just was a child and now suddenly is an adult all of a sudden, and that's cool. That's cool. So yeah, I mean, I don't think there's anything particularly deep to analyze about their, you know, childhood to adulthood relationships. It's there so that they can fuck, and you know, that's really all there is to it.
Yeah.
I wonder if anyone out there is weirded out by the Woody Allen style of that.
Isn't the other girl that he gets like also a lolly?
Well, she's a straight lolly, but she's definitely not like romantically paired with him in the same way that Raphtalia is.
It's just really funny that like these are the girls that he's got on his whole clique, right? Like,
yeah, and actually, as a matter of fact, so for a guy who like he starts the series out hating women, he sure hangs out with a lot of them as the series goes on, and that's, you know, fucking shown in the opening. So that's cool. That's cool. I like that. That's how things work out. And again, I don't want to like spoil what happens, but it's in the fucking opening, so
yeah.
I guess that's all there is to it.
I'm excited to see how this will progress from here, because we've got obviously that twist coming up, and then this is kind of a show that usually has something to add or something to add to the story in every chapter. So it's not like, I don't think there's a lot of wheel spinning in this manga. It's usually like, you know, even if it's only one thing like per chapter, something will get revealed that you could comment on. So that's why I feel like we could do this every week. Obviously, we filled quite some time today. Even if I take out the 15 minutes or so of me explaining something completely wrong, we still have like 30-something minutes left. Is there anything else you had notes on?
I guess I just want to restate that it's interesting to me that they're kind of making a conscious choice, in my opinion, to like de-emphasize the edginess of the character and go more towards the feelsiness of like the story as a whole. That is kind of a weird decision to me, considering that like the original felt very
I think
like
they
silly.
just think that it'll reach a broader audience that way. Like,
yeah,
it's just not as easy for a lot of people to connect with a character that dark. And like he still is dark. So like it's still going to communicate the point to the people who are going to connect with it. Like one way or another, the right audience will get their hands on it, you know? And like the ones who want it to be even darker will find out about the other versions if that's what they want, you know?
That's true. And my only other point is I am kind of surprised to see this episode was pretty full of content, and they cut things too. Probably to make things more in line with like this feeliness. So it's not that they were strapped for time, because they cut out things they could have put in, at least to a degree. But like I do feel like they're rushing things a little bit too much, I think, especially with like the villager thing. That's the number one thing, and him like becoming a nice guy. I just think they should relax a little bit, and I suppose they can't hear me. I'm hoping they do this. They just slow things down a little bit in terms of like his character development and like his relationship with people. But that's a small point. I bet it was just kind of a one-off thing to have like Like I bet that one villager with the bandana. I'm sure we'll see him again. At least I'm guessing we will. If not, that'll be sort of strange. The knights were an interesting thing to see, who showed no regard, and when the raid was going on, just like rained magic over the concentration of the monsters where the where Naofumi had gathered them all together. Naofumi luckily survived with this like magical shield spell he had. But that's an interesting thing to see. That's a way that at this point his actual physical health and like life has been put in danger by his bad reputation because the Knights of the Kingdom just don't respect him or care about him. And so, I'm looking forward to seeing more of that, how that plays out. I guess so. The first wave is done. That's like a major plot progression of the series. Yeah. We'll have, like at the end we see the fucking hourglass turn over. Things are going to advance.
Yeah, I think that's the most important thing about this like episode is that it sets up a sort of rhythm that we understand innately. We're just like, oh, okay, so that's what a wave is. So now we like, and as soon as they say like, oh, the next one will probably be easy too, it's like, all right, we understand the level progression, like the scaling that's gonna go on.
Yep.
Immediately you know what you're looking forward to for the like. That in a series where there's a book, where it's like 80 books or however many books, it's like, I wonder if a wave will just about line up to a book, like,
indeed, fair
seems
point.
Likely.
I guess that's it. That's all I got. Looking forward to next week, and we'll be back, folks.
All right, peace out.
Bye-bye.
But the reason I forgot to tell you this, but part of the reason that I did this is that I made a poll in my Patreon with a list of like 25 potential ideas I had for videos. And like one of them was to do this series, and it got by far the most votes. Like,
you mean with me or just Shield Knight?
Yeah, with you. Like,
oh shit, okay.
Like Shield Hero Weekly with Best Guy Ever, and everybody was like, oh, we want it to come back.
Aw,
so
that's so sweet.
Like, yeah.
Well, cool. What a nice thing to hear.
As a bonus at the end or something.
Yeah, good idea.
All right.
I'm ready.